You would know in the run-up to the election, in fact, all over this country, there was much talk of potholes, of the state of our infrastructure, particularly our roads. Stories, websites of the damage done to people's cars by potholes, and the government, the National Party, campaigned on fixing our roads up. And now, I guess, we see the delivery of that policy. The person who's been charged with doing that is Simeon Brown, the Transport Minister and the MP for Pakuranga. He joins us on the line now. Okay, Simeon, you are fixing the potholes, as you promised to do, right?
That's correct, Sean, and great to be with you. We promised we'd fix the roads, and that's what we're delivering. The New Zealand Transport Agency is responding to our government policy statement on transport, which has made it clear that we want to see increased investment into road maintenance, but also we want to see that funding, the funding for fixing our roads, actually ring-fenced, so it goes into those particular activities which keep potholes off our roads, such as resealing the roads, rehabilitating it, and drainage maintenance. Those three activities are critically important to preventing potholes from forming in the first place, and that's where we're going to be ring-fencing those funds to make sure it goes into those activities. We're also going to make sure there's clear targets that the NZTA needs to meet around what percentage of the road we're going to be asking them to be resealing every year, rehabilitating every year, so that they can get back to those long-term renewal targets, which are really, really important, such as making sure that over, each year, up to 2% is rehabilitated each year. At the moment, it's around 0.5%, which is not good enough.
All right, how much am I spending on this a year extra?
So the government is increasing the amount that the New Zealand Transport Agency will be putting into pothole prevention, which is resealing, rehabilitating and drainage maintenance. They're going to be increasing that over the next 3 years by 91% over what they spent in the last 3 years. So that's a significover step up.
What's the dollar figure per year?
Well, it'll be around $650 million a year. It's over $2.1 billion over 3 years put into the state highway network.
Yeah.
So that's a significant step up in terms of the pothole prevention activities on our state highways.
Yeah.
We're also going to be increasing the amount that local authorities have for those activities as well, by about 50% over the next 3 years.
And how much is that?
To ensure that, so that'll be increasing from, I think, $1.2 billion over the next 3 years to $1.8 billion over the next 3 years.
So that's another 600,000. So we're spending nearly $3 billion.
Well, it'll be close to $4 billion in terms of what's actually going to be spent over the next 3 years on pavement rehabilitation, resealing our roads, and drainage maintenance.
Yep.
The reality is, the last 6 years, we haven't had that investment that we needed. We've seen the effects on our roads. The potholes have been forming, all of the impacts that has had. And this is critically important to ensure that we get back to maintaining our roads to the appropriate standards. It's going to require significant investment, and that's what we welcome New Zealand Transport Agency committing those resources. But it's not just the resources. It's then making sure that every dollar is spent efficiently, and it's focused on those activities which actually fix our roads.
Yeah. All right. Well, the other thing is you're doing this without the money that comes from the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax, which is about to go, right?
Well, the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax are funds going to Auckland Council, and as you know, Sean, from our conversations earlier in the year, that money was going into all sorts of interesting things. It was going into paying for speed bumps, red light cameras, bus lanes, cycle lanes. The reality is we've had a fundamental priority shift in terms of transport away from slowing people down and making it inconvenient for motorists to get where they need to go. And we're focusing back on the basics, which is actually what I want Auckland Transport, road controlling authorities, NZTA to be focused on, building and maintaining our roads, rather than simply slowing Kiwis down who are trying to get around. And by the way, it's Kiwis who pay for this stuff. And so many people have come up to me in recent years and said, how come there's enough money to build a speed bump, but not enough to fill the potholes? Well, I'm sorry, we're not going to have funding for speed bumps. We're going to have funding for potholes and actually doing the things that are what New Zealanders want done on their roads.
Let's talk. And, of course, potholes reduce the speed at which we can travel safely on our roading infrastructure and our roading network. You also promised
right.
before the election that there was going to be a review of the what were increasingly confusing and variable speed limits on roads, the state highway network around the country. And God, if I've had one person from the Wairarapa bitching at me about the Featherston thing, I've had 100. How is progress on ironing out that kink going?
Yeah, so progress is going well. There's two things. There's a two-step approach that we're taking. So the first step was done just before Christmas, where we made an amendment to the speed limit rule to stop the requirement for road controlling authorities to put in place further blanket speed limit reductions.
Yeah.
If we hadn't made that change, all councils and the New Zealand Transport Agency would have had to put what's called a speed management plan in, which is code, which would have required blanket speed limit reductions on all the roading networks.
So you stopped the rot
by the 31st of March. So we removed that.
Yep.
The next step is rewriting the speed limit rule, which will do two things. One is it will reverse those blanket speed limit reductions, and two, it will put in place new rules which will have a far more sensible approach to.
But you haven't done that yet?
No, not yet. So we're going through the process, and we will have good news for people shortly on that issue.
Well, oh God, you're not going to tell me what shortly means? Weeks, months, days?
Oh, look, I can't tell you, unfortunately, Sean. I appreciate your interest and the interests of many hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders, and all I can say is that we're working through this issue. Writing a rule is a process that we have to go through. There's legal tests we have to meet, and we're going through that. Then it has to go out for consultation, and then it will be implemented. It does take longer to do that,